A film directed by Mani Ratnam, starring Kamal Hassan and music by A.R. Rahman. It's only human to be excited, and I certainly was. But unfortunately enough, I walked out of the theatre extremely disappointed because the screenplay is flat and boring. There's nothing interesting and you feel really distant from the characters and emotions of the story. Now that is my nutshell review. I would like to dwell deeper into the film. There might be mild spoilers, so watch at your own discretion. So the film is essentially having a big creative conflict. On one hand, it's trying to be this intimate gangster epic which focuses a lot more on the characters, their relationships and their conflicts. On the other hand, it's trying to be this commercial revenge film where everything's big and huge and it's trying to go the hero worship route. Now both of them individually could be good films, but together it never really meshes. I'm not saying that these two things can never work together. I'm just saying it does not work in this context. There's always this constant dichotomy between these two things the film wants to do, and that's where the film fails. Now there are beautiful touches that you expect from a classic Mani Ratnam film. The opening portion, 20 minutes or so, it's shot entirely in black and white, and that's just pure Ratnam magic. So essentially you see a young Rangaraya Sakthivel as he is caught in between this chaos. There is a shootout that's happening and he saves this young kid after his father passes away. This kid is also estranged from his sister, and you already have two emotions to latch on to: a young kid who's lost his father and is estranged from his sister. Now what's interesting here is that when the film opens up, Rangaraya Sakthivel is giving this monologue. So in the monologue he says that death always keeps coming for me and I always seem to escape it. I am paraphrasing, but that's what the essence of it is. Now the kid that he rescues is called Amaran. Amaran translates to immortality, and there in itself you set up the dynamic between these two characters: a person who's always escaping death and a person who is literally called immortal. So this is a pure classic Mani Ratnam move that you see throughout these first 20 minutes. There are incredible shots throughout. The framing is out of this world, and Ravi K. Chandran's frames are gorgeous, not just in this initial stretch but throughout the film. There is one shot where Kamal Hassan looks out of the window through the blinds, and that shot is just etched into my memory. That in itself for me is a commercial moment. You're showing the power of a hero's eyes through his looks, and that is what the film should have aimed for. It should have been a commercial film that is a bit more subtle than what it becomes in the second half. Now post this initial stretch, the film dwells into exploring the relationships between the characters and the politics of the business. They keep calling this criminal empire of Sakthivel and Amaran as a business, but we're never shown what it is. We don't understand what it is they're doing. Are they peddling drugs? Are they into trafficking? Are they into killing other people? What are these gangsters doing? You never understand that. Therefore, it's really hard to care for the politics of it. You know that they're rivals there trying to take over their criminal empire, but what is it? And that is what causes you to feel distant from all of it. Fair enough, maybe the intention here was not to show the business aspect of it, but rather the character dynamics. But again, the film doesn't spend enough time with the characters for you to be invested or for you to get into their headspace. Now, when two characters are talking, you don't feel this connection that should be felt, given that the initial stretch shows that Amaran meets Sakthivel when he was a young boy. So this should be like this beautiful father-son kind of a relationship, but you see nothing between these two characters. There is no scene that conveys the respect or the love or any kind of an emotion that they have between them. There are some scenes that are more playful where they kind of hit off each other, but there's nothing really much to it. There's no depth. There is no emotion that you can carry forward to understand the bond between these two characters. Now, as the film progresses, there are some interesting moments, I will say. There is this one scene in the hospital which I really liked, which I thought was a really nice way to explore what each character thought about each other. But these moments are very far and few between. Another thing the film does is that it has moments that work, but when you put it all together, it really doesn't. For example, in the second half, there is this beautiful scene between Sakthivel and his wife on the beach. It is exquisitely shot, just like the entire film, and also the dialogue feels beautiful, like you can feel the emotional weight there. But when you take it in context of the entire film, it feels like it's lost, like it doesn't have a place right there. The emotion is felt for that moment alone, and it never translates to the entire film, and that is the film's biggest flaw. There are individual moments that are great, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, it all gets lost. Now again, I cannot emphasize how good looking the film is. It's beautiful, technically brilliant. I mean, there are some shots that are so good looking, and you get these amazing wide shots, you get these close-ups. All of it is classic Mani Ratnam. You know that this is a film made by a person who is putting a lot of effort. Nothing in the film is lazy. It's always effort driven. But it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this magnificent gun, but it has no bullets. The trigger is pulled multiple times, but no shots are fired. The film tries to build itself up with multiple twists and turns, but none of them land because of how hollow it is on the inside. There is no emotional connect that you have with the characters, and that is a big flaw. One scene that made me realize that the film is truly not working is toward the midpoint of the film, just pre-interval, when Rangaraj Sakthivel is being backstabbed by Amaran. Now this should be like this big moment, right? Like these two people know each other, and Sakthivel rescued this kid when he was just a young boy, and him betraying Sakthivel should be like a big moment, but it never feels like a big moment. The backstabbing is done and you don't care. You don't feel the pain that Sakthivel is feeling because he's been backstabbed by someone he looked at as a son, and you don't feel the anger that this guy is feeling because technically in essence he has betrayed his father. There is no weight to those moments, and again this goes back to the conflict between them. It is so poorly set up and very immature, almost feels like a kid fighting. It doesn't have that drive that you expect for a guy to go and directly kill someone who he considers his father. That is entirely missing, and this sets in motion a ripple effect that takes you emotionally distant from the remaining of the film. The revenge feels empty. You are not feeling that this character needs that revenge. You're just watching Kamal Hassan slaughter a bunch of people, and that's about it. And talking about the action is fairly well choreographed. It is in itself a decent enough action set piece, but when you put it in the grand scheme of things, it feels so out of place because there are scenes that are trying to be intimate and more about the characters, and then you have this gigantic big action sequence and you're feeling nothing. You're supposed to feel something for the character, the lead. He's there, he's out for revenge. That's a strong emotion. You're not feeling it, and that is the film's big flaw. It keeps repeating this flaw, and I wouldn't even say repeating. It's like the damage is already done and now can do nothing. But if there's one thing I can appreciate is the ending. I really like the way the film closes out its end. I'm not talking about the entire fight in the end, but post the fight there is this closure moment that happens. It's beautiful. It's classic Mani Ratnam, a very poetic ending, and it could have worked. If I showed you just the first 20 minutes and the final 10 minutes, you would actually assume that this is a really good film. But when you have that odd 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes in between, that are so distant, that are genuinely not letting you be invested in the world, it's a chore to sit through. I don't like to say that I was bored by a film, but unfortunately enough, that is the case here. I was waiting for it to get over after a point in the second half, and it was honestly very hard to sit through. Now, one thing I really appreciate about Mani Ratnam's films is how well the female characters are written. They're extremely strong individuals. When you look at films like Ravanan, OK Kanmani, or multiple other films as well, they are very strongly written. It's always been one of Mani Ratnam's strengths, but very strangely, Trisha's character in this film is one of the weakest characters in the film. she just exists in the film. There's no impact that's created by it. It's certainly not memorable in any way. Now the idea is interesting. So she's a bar dancer that is rescued by Kamal Hassan's character, and now she's the girlfriend of Kamal Hassan, and Kamal Hassan is already married. He already has a wife. Now it could have been a story about the dichotomy where he has to try to explore why Kamal Hassan's character needs a girlfriend despite being in a marriage, or something like that. Or it could be the story of Trisha from her perspective, what she feels about the situation. Does she feel like she's been used by this gangster, or does she feel any kind of emotion? Why does she look up to this man? Why is she in a relationship with this man? So that all of that is more interesting than what they actually do, which is honestly nothing. It doesn't lead anywhere, and it just feels like one of those things where you need a heroine in the film and they have it. It really doesn't lead anywhere. And also there's one scene where he explains this to his wife, why he's having an affair with another woman, and explains it like it's just as simple as having something like diabetes or blood pressure. Now it is problematic, but we never explore why it is problematic. We never explore the reasons for it, and that makes it a lot more uninteresting, and also takes an actress like Trisha, who's really good at her craft, and reduces her to a nothing character. Now we have to talk about A.R. Rahman's music, because of course A.R. Rahman is a legend. Now the musical bits individually are energetic. They definitely have that punch, but the way they're placed into the film feels completely out of sync. Their visuals, something's happening, and the background music is something else. You're not exactly sure what you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to think that this is this beautiful, huge, grand mass moment, or you're supposed to think is like this little intimate moment. You're not sure because the music doesn't blend with the way the film moves. Now I don't know if it can be attributed to A.R. Rahman or the director or the editor or whoever, but this sync was completely off throughout the film. Now if you take a film directed by Mani Ratnam itself, let's say something in the same genre like Chakka Chivanta Vanam, I'm really sorry if I pronounce that wrong, I'll refer to it as CCV. Now in CCV, the integration of music into the visuals is genuinely one of the best I've seen in a commercial space. Whenever the song starts playing in the background, there's a lot of energy, things set into motion. There's this amazing little montage in the middle of the film where Vijay Sethupathe's character in that basically approaches on a bike and tells STR's character that there are people approaching, and this entire thing is in rain. It's all just beautifully orchestrated, and the music that's playing in the background genuinely gets your heart pumping. It makes you ready for this conflict that's about to happen. All of that is missing here. There's never that energy that you feel between the dichotomy of these two characters. You don't feel like Kamal Hassan's gonna win. You don't feel like STR's gonna win. There's nothing. It just is extremely flat and a very, very simple story which has no reason to be 2 hours 46 minutes long. If you honestly ask me, I don't even remember a lot of what happened, which is so strange for a Mani Ratnam film, because when you look back at his films, I'm not saying like they're very tight or anything. There are scenes that flow, but all of these scenes seem to have a purpose. When you look at something like Ravanan, in 2 hours of the film, there is not a single scene wasted. And practically any other Mani Ratnam film, there's always a purpose behind the dialogues. There's always a purpose behind characters talking. But I'm not sure here. Maybe on a rewatch, I would see that, okay, this scene means something else, but I don't really want to rewatch, and it's so strange because it is such a boring experience. It's such a chore to sit through, and I genuinely was more than disappointed. I was surprised at how distant the film felt, because emotions are always Mani Ratnam's strong point. You definitely connect with the characters, or in the least understand what the characters' motivations are. It's all very hazier and very toned down to a point where you really don't understand, and there's not a lot of subtext to really help you think that there's a lot more going on. It's a very simple story, a very, very simple story that's highly conflicting. If I had to sum up my experience, this is a film that strongly reminds you of why Mani Ratnam is a brilliant director. Not because of what you are watching, but because of what you wish you were watching. So those are my thoughts on Thug Life. Let me know what you guys thought about it. And if you find this video interesting, definitely do subscribe. You can check out multiple other reviews, and I also have a huge 30-minute review for Ponniyin Selvan. If you want to check that out, it appears right on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again.